Everyone, Matt Garland, NMLS number 58700, but better known as MG the Mortgage Guy. I got my special guest, my superstar attorney, Sabine Franco, on the channel today. What's up, Sabine?
What's up? What's up? Good morning, everyone.
You staying corona free?
I'm trying to. I'm doing my best. You got me fresh out of bed on the late wake up.
It's the new life right now, quarantine life.
Living quarantine life for sure.
Yeah. So how has it been working from home? How long have you been quarantined for?
I've been quarantined since probably about, I would say, the 23rd. My office officially went virtual, so we were not coming into the space anymore. And so for the most part, I've been really home, and I've had probably like 3 or 4 days out of that where I've had to go back closings.
Okay.
And so I've had to leave the house for those, and it hasn't been terrible, but like as the days go on and they keep talking about these numbers, I'm getting more and more nervous about doing that. So the ones that I have coming up, like on Thursday, which is tomorrow, I'm going to probably be like, okay, everybody in the parking lot, stay in your cars. We'll do it like that.
Yeah, you have to protect yourself. So for those of you who don't know Sabine Franco, she's on tour. Well, we had a tour. Now it's postponed until further notice with DJ Envy in Flippin, New Jersey. She's an attorney based here in New York. So today's video is going to be primarily talking about how we're closing loans here in New York City, for at least the 5 boroughs in Long Island. And kind of give you guys an insight what to expect if you are going to close on a property, whether you're a buyer, seller, a realtor, what you guys can really expect. So let's talk about the closing that you had yesterday. How did you handle that closing?
So yesterday, I actually had a closing in New Jersey, and it was a mutual client of ours, Matt.
Okay.
So I called the client beforehand, and because in New Jersey, the attorney doesn't have to be at the closing. So there's that option. In New York, we don't have that option. So I asked him, I said, I could certainly come out if you want me to be there, but if you don't need me to be there, I could be there virtually or speak over the phone, FaceTime, whatever you want. And he's like, well, New York is a hot spot, so I'm not mad if you don't come. He's like, it's better that you don't come and just be there, be available by phone. So that's what we did. I called him. He was still super excited. He was happy. He was excited. He met just with himself and the title closer in the title company's office, and they wore gloves and masks and kind of just, signed the papers and was done. Like they were just kind of in and out.
Now, when this was happening, were you on the call at the same time? Was it like a Zoom meeting happening? Like, how was that experience with you?
I did a FaceTime call with him. So I was there. I could see him. I had, prior to the closing, I had the title company send me the documents that they received from the bank. And so I was able to review all the papers that he was signing and kind of, be there available for him. And I just asked him like certain things, important things on the documents, like his interest rate, his payments and stuff like that, to make sure that those were all correct. I checked all of the expenses on his CD. Like sometimes there's issues with the appraisal and the insurance and stuff. So all of that was good. And so just confirm those things with him and just be available if he had questions as they were going through things.
Now, was he able to do a final walkthrough of the property?
Yes, he did do a final walkthrough of the property with the agent. The agent waited outside, let him in, and he just. It was
a vacant multifamily.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was able to conduct that walkthrough. Now, what about a closing that you had to attend recently yourself, like here in New York? Like, how was that process?
So earlier this week, was it Monday? Monday, I had a few closings. And one was in my office where I had the bank and the title company. Now they came in, they had gloves.
Okay, so you hosted.
I hosted.
Okay.
I hosted. The bank and the title company came in. They had gloves, but they didn't have masks, which I was concerned about. But I didn't have extra masks because they're so scarce.
Okay. And so wait a minute. So hold on. So when you did that, did you put them like one on one side of the table? Like did you use social distancing guidelines?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. I had like a big conference room table. The title closer was at one end. The bank was like sort of in the middle on the side by himself. My client sat on the other side by themselves, and I sat at the other end of the table. The sellers were in the parking lot. So the title closer went back and forth to the parking lot for whatever they had assigned. And my clients had on masks. But having experienced that, and I keep hearing the numbers that we're expected to have and how we're not at peak yet, I'm thinking the next one, which I have to do tomorrow, I'm thinking that's going to be everybody in the parking lot. We just stay in your own cars. Yeah, because it's just not safe. Like the safety measures that we take are best practices because that's the best we can do, right? But it's not safe. You could be infected and not know. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's tough. You know, so you have them in the parking lot in their cars, and then like, here's your stack of papers, sign them, and then get on the phone with them basically and say if you have any questions while you're going through it.
Yeah, I could stand outside the car and kind of go through it with them. That I don't mind. But in terms of having everybody inside in a closed space, you know, hopefully it's not raining. But in terms of having everybody inside in a closed space, I'm concerned about that. And also, one of the clients that I spoke to, she was like, she has a small child, so she's buying, she wants to close, but she doesn't want to be in a space with anybody, you know? So, so we're trying to do our best. They have different measures, like with these, e-notaries or virtual notaries. And I was on a conference call. I was on a conference call with one of the title companies that, was kind of explaining the process. And although the governor authorized it for New York, the actual logistics of kind of getting it done hasn't been sort of like streamlined or hasn't been sort of like worked out for New York. And all the banks have different kind of
closing
protocol.
Practices. Yeah.
Right. Whether or not they're going to accept it, do we have to do extra things or whatever the case is. So I think for at least now, for like this week, next week, maybe we're not there yet. Hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, this is sounding like a little bit of a mess right now.
It's a mess.
In New York. I'm just going to keep it real. It just sounds like a whole, like just a mess. You know what I'm saying? Like, there has to be a better way where we can just do these closings electronically, maybe on Zoom calls. You know, Zoom calls all get recorded. So maybe New York, they got to step up to the technology. Like, maybe you just upload that to the whole file or something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, that's what we were talking
recording.
Yeah, that's what they were talking about on the conference call. That's why I was like, I really need to listen to this because I want to know what's going on. And so that is an option, that whole Zoom call. But the problem remains the notary part, because I think at the very least, maybe they should just have the notary and the buyer together, or if they will allow us as attorneys to notarize our clients' documents. If we do it on the Zoom, then it's an actual notary. You know what I mean? So that movement needs to be made in order for us to like get it done. But yeah, it's a bit of a mess. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing, trying to figure it out, doing the best they can. Like, a lot of sellers are pre-signing their docs, you know, so that way they don't even have to be sort of involved. And that's a good way too. Like, I wish we could just do it that way, you know?
Now, now with the courthouses, right? Like, how is this working? Because all of these mortgages and deeds, everything has to be recorded with the counties. So how is that process?
What I've seen is the title companies have like a new like affidavit affidavit stating that for the sellers to sign, stating that they're not going to do anything to further like encumber the property, not going to put additional lien, sell it to somebody else or something, knowing that there's going to be a gap in recording. And so in the city, they're just not getting recorded. They're just like going to be backed up and just sitting and waiting for the city to open. In Long Island, their recording offices are still open limitedly, so they're able to get stuff done. It's just a slower process.
Wow. So having that affidavit signed is clutch.
It's clutch. I mean, it's still risky though, you know.
It is, because it's, you know, that's super risky.
Like, it's super risky. I'm surprised, you know, because it is super risky for them to do that. And not have stuff recorded. So, I mean, it's just the times that we in, you know, hopefully people are not that That's shady.
Well, let's hope not. I mean, we are New Yorkers at the end of the day, so
Right.
we can't put nothing past people. But this is when America opens back up. Well, let me say when New York opens back up, this could be this is going to impact future business from delays with title orders, recording. This problem is going to become more of a bigger problem. It's like I just see the snowball right now, from the top.
It definitely is, because now they're going to be, backed up in recording. Who knows if that's going to affect the way that we're getting the information, like you said, with the title orders. From what I understand, they're still able to do searches online. So for the most part, most of their searches and stuff, they're able to do online. I know that with like Nassau and Suffolk, which is the Long Island counties, they tend to not be as online as the city. So I'm not sure if that's delayed. But that's kind of where we are. So it's going to be a backup. It's going to be
so for a new buyer, right? So let's talk to the realtors. Let's talk to the buyers, the sellers. Let's set some expectations right now, right? It's April 1st, April Fools. Second quarter.
We wish we could say that, right?
I wish I could say April Fools right now.
Just kidding, guys.
But like someone going into contract today, tomorrow, next week, here in New York City and Long Island, what should they expect? Turnaround times, right? Like how long is it going to take to get a title report right now?
So for turnaround times, what we're doing in most of our contracts is we're doing 90 days and we're putting a COVID-19 kind of clause in there stating that, we'll reasonably extend it past the end of this COVID-19 situation. Sometimes I'm getting pushback on the other side, which I understand is open-ended. So we're trying to say, 90 days. So you're going to at least have a 90-day contract. Hopefully that entire period will be a commitment period because we don't know how long the banks are going to take. And hoping that we'll be able to extend if need be. We're trying to have that flexibility in our contracts right now. So I would say you're looking at 90 to 120 days.
Wow.
I don't know because I haven't had a deal go through underwriting yet. That's just started. So I don't know how long that period is going to be, but people are still getting their commitments and getting their clear to close. So going to happen.
Look, for us on our end, it's business as usual, just from home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like banks are already paperless and we're already accustomed to being remote. Of pushing files through and stuff like that. It does slow things up a tad bit, but not too much. But, generally it's, now that the appraisals, we solved that issue with the Fannie and Freddie, what they changed in appraisal guidelines. My main concern is always title. When we're going to get that.
Right. Yeah.
But if we can get title within a 30-day time frame, because I got a couple orders and they're taking a while right now. So I'm telling people the same thing. Expect to close in June.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, and I'm hoping for new people.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's an exaggeration. So we're just trying to be, cautious. I'm hoping that
you got to get worst case scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm thinking a good 30 day, like where we would have title in 2 weeks. If we needed a rush, we could get it in a week or whatever. I'm thinking a good 30 days for a title order would be reasonable or likely,
And they're able to get everything they need in the title report. So it's just slower with the courts.
Just slower. Yeah. From what I'm understanding, I haven't heard that they're not able to get, anything in particular. Maybe if it's like a nuance type of deal, some sort of, crazy issue that we're not used to, that could be. But the typical searches that they normally do, they're able to still get them. And the idea is that things probably haven't changed because nobody's able to really record,
Yeah, no, 100%. So, all right. So what else, what can sellers, buyers do to prepare right now? If you had to give them 2 things, your top 2 things right now to prepare for buying a house during COVID-19 in New York.
So I would say one thing you want to do is make sure that you're not within the type of employment field that you can expect a layoff or, you know, even remotely expect that, and make sure that you have time. Make sure that you have time, that you're not in a rush, that you don't have, you know, deadlines, or work around those deadlines. Like if it's a moving deadline, put in some other sort of like contingency within, like staying with family members if that's possible, or finding a place that you could stay, because likely we're not going to be able to rush through the process. Like everyone's, you know, working as usual, like you said, and kind of trying to move through the process as quickly as possible. But there's just going to be delays that we cannot, you know, get around. And then if you are negotiating a deal, you might want to be a little bit more flexible now, because there's not a lot of, like, say if you're a seller, there's not a lot of buyers on the market. Although, you know, maybe still some people perceive it to still be a buyer's market, but buyers are kind of concerned right now. They're kind of, you know, kind of looking at things and deciding whether or not they want to move forward. So